So I have my skillet getting nice and hot. I'm going to drizzle some olive oil on the bottom of my pan. Now I'm going to add in some chicken tenderloins, and I have about 8 pieces that I'm putting into my skillet. Fried oregano leaves. Just sprinkle a little bit on there. You don't have to worry about measuring it. I'm going to sprinkle a little bit of garlic salt. And I'm going to let these cook. I'm not going to let them cook all the way, but just most of the way. You also want to go ahead and turn the heat down to medium, and you don't want to leave it on the high heat because you don't want these to get crispy. You just want to cook these until they're almost cooked all the way. Okay, I have these cooking on medium heat, and I'm going to add my lid to the skillet. I took my lid off to check on the chicken, and I totally forgot to add some garlic. So I'm just going to add in a good teaspoonful of some minced garlic into the pan and give this a good stir. So I'm going to go ahead and return the lid and cook this for just a few more minutes. So let's check on our chicken. It looks perfect. So what I'm going to do now is get a pair of tongs and my kitchen scissors, and I'm actually going to dice up the chicken. I'm just doing this directly into my pan, and I could have done this already before I cooked the chicken, but it seems like the chicken is a lot easier to cut once it's already cooked. So just take your chicken and cut it up into small pieces. So I've diced up the chicken and I've turned the heat up a little bit, and now I'm going to add in a jar of Bertolli 5-cheese spaghetti sauce. Pour this right into the skillet. And now I'm going to pour in 1 cup of chicken broth. Stir this all together. I'm actually going to add in another 1/2 cup of my chicken broth just to make this a little bit more soupy. I like about this recipe is that you can add in as much as you'd like, depending on how soupy you want it. I'm going to let this simmer in the pot for a little while, and while this is simmering, we're going to go ahead and prepare our garlic toast. Okay, so I have 1/2 of a remaining loaf of French bread that I'm going to use. I'm going to lay out my French bread onto a cutting board with a nice knife, and I'm going to cut almost 1 inch in size slices of my bread. Okay, I've got my bread cut, and now I'm going to lay this onto a cookie sheet. Got my bread lined onto a cookie sheet, so I'm going to take some melted butter and brush across the top of my bread. And I like brushing it on because it just makes the job go by a lot quicker whenever you do it this way. If you have softened butter, that will also work. If you've never made homemade garlic bread, you ought to give it a try. Okay, now that I've got my butter on my bread, I'm going to sprinkle some garlic salt on the top. And now I'm going to sprinkle some dried oregano leaves. And while I'm doing all this, my oven is preheating at 350 degrees. Alright, my bread is ready to go into the oven. Okay, our soup has been simmering, and I'm actually going to add in 1/2 of this bag of shredded mozzarella cheese. And I'm going to stir this in. And I'm going to return the lid so that the cheese has a chance to melt, and then I'm going to stir it again. Taking the garlic bread out of the oven, and you just want to cook it until it's crispy around the edges, and it can still be a little soft in the center. And look at the other side. Look how yummy that looks. I'm going to take the lid off and set it aside. I'm going to take my homemade croutons, and if you missed that video, I'll put a link in the description box below so you can go watch to see how I made these. So I'm going to sprinkle these just on top of the soup. And now I'm going to sprinkle the remaining of my mozzarella on top of the croutons. And I have some Parmesan with Asiago and Romano cheese that I'm going to sprinkle on top as well. And then I'm going to add the lid back to the skillet and let this sit for a little while until the cheese is nice and melted. I have also turned the heat off on this skillet so that it can just sit here and the cheese can melt. Okay, so this has been sitting long enough, and as you can tell, our cheese is nice and melted on top. I'd give you guys an up-close look at our soup. Doesn't that look yummy? I wish you guys could smell this. Okay, now it's time to put some in a bowl. It's nice and cheesy and full of flavor, and those croutons have soaked up some of the soup. I think I need a little bit more. Take a piece of our nice garlic toast that we have made and put it with my soup. And there we go, chicken Parmesan soup in the skillet with some homemade bread to go with it. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and thanks for watching.